5 of the most common ADHD signs and symptoms. My name is Vanessa and I'm a Harvard certified life coach and also late diagnosed ADHDer. So while I know it's very frustrating being later diagnosed, it doesn't mean that you can't find a system that works for you, because although ADHD is not curable, it is highly treatable. So let's get started. Sign number 1, inattention. So because our minds are constantly distracted because we're thinking about so many things at once. For example, let's say we have a to-do list. We're thinking of all the stuff we want to get done. Even on stimulants, if you don't have a system, you're going to want to do all the things you've procrastinated on all at once. So because of this, it's difficult for you to regulate your attention, and especially when it comes to subjects you don't find interesting. You could reread a book, the same page 5 times, and your brain is not processing. Or for example, with verbal instructions, someone could be telling you directly in the eyes and say, this is where you go. It is very difficult for us to sustain attention on what is being said. And it's not because sometimes it is because we don't find a topic interesting. It's just because in general, it's really difficult for us to sustain attention for a determined length or period. So that makes us very easily distracted, which is why we tend to hyper focus. And when we get hyper focused, we get frustrated when someone interrupts us, because it took so much discipline and concentration to finally start this task, and someone came and interrupted that. We don't even want to pee, we don't want to breathe, we don't want to do anything until we finish this task. So inattention and difficulty maintaining that attention is a very common symptom of ADHD. Sign number 2, impulsivity. So this could be chasing dopamine in unhealthy ways through substances because we feel that need to mask, because it allows us to feel more relaxed. Or it could also be impulsivity as interrupting people's conversations. So interrupting people's conversations, impulsivity is a very common ADHD sign and symptom. And a lot of times it's very frustrating for our loved ones and our friends because they're trying to get through a story and we constantly keep interrupting them. But something I love about hanging out with fellow neurodivergents is that we constantly interrupt each other's story, but we don't get frustrated about it because we know that we might forget that point in that story we're trying to say. So we want to get that thought out, or it's because we resonate with your story and we want to connect with you and we want you to know I'm actually paying attention to what you're saying. Like, I want you to know I'm listening. And because of that excitement, it's very difficult. We're impulsive, and so we'll interrupt the conversation. And because we're ADHDers, we feel such a deep, heavy of guilt and shame. So guilt and shame is a very common sign and symptom of ADHDers. And, because we're impulsive, and because we're sensitive, RSD, which I'll make another video on that. It's just back to back. It's one step first, the rejection. First is the impulsivity, interrupting someone's conversation. Then it's the guilt and shame, and then the rejection sensitivity. So, there's layers to this. So we don't mean to interrupt your conversation. We just want you to know we're actually listening. We actually care, and we've been through a similar experience, and we want to bond with you. So please don't take it personal if you know an ADHDer that cannot stop interrupting you. I promise you that it's out of love. 3, hyperactivity. That could be stimming, darling. So as you guys know, either it could be stimming. So stimming is a self-regulation. It's self-soothing regulation. So basically it could be through hands, it could be through, hair twirling, it could be for making sounds. I'm sure you guys have seen my stimming videos. So basically it's what allows us to regulate any anxiety. If we're bored, it helps us get that little burst of dopamine. If we're trying to find something, if we're anxious, it helps us regulate our nervous system. So it could be, like I said, it could be sounds, it could be fidgeting, it could be hair twirling. There's many different forms of stimming, and I do want to clarify that stimming does not only apply to autistic individuals. So autism and ADHD both fall under the umbrella term of neurodivergence. So while autistic people stim, ADHDers too, because we're both under the umbrella term. Both of our brains think differently. So I do want to take a moment, because I know a lot of people see my stimming videos and they say that's only autism, but no, ADHDers also STEM, because we both have our brains different. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's why we, trauma bond together. I'm just kidding, not trauma bond, but I think I immediately connect more with neurodivergents than neurotypicals, just because I love not having to mask, and I love being able to just be myself and having a safe space to freely STEM and not be judged for it. 4, disorganization. So this one, you buy a planner and you say, yeah, this is where I start. But you don't start. Let's be real. You have 3 planners already, and you keep buying them with saying tomorrow's gonna be the new day, and you just keep collecting pretty little planners. Disorganization is a very common ADHD sign and symptom because we have difficulty following through tasks. We have time blindness. So if we we forget, we're terrible with sense of timing, which is why we tend to be late to places, which is why we procrastinate, and then we realize there's an hour left and we just cram through 8 hours worth of work in 1 hour rather than breaking it into smaller tasks. So we have so much difficulty organizing because we procrastinate, because we have difficulty following through and completing tasks. We leave stuff halfway, and also we have difficulty following through instructions because verbal instructions are very difficult for us to understand. So me, for example, my boss, I've already made that very clear, and he knows he needs to text me whatever he's saying. He could say it over the phone if he wants to verbalize it, but he knows that if he doesn't have it in written, it's not going to be done. And it's important to set those boundaries and just clarify to your coworkers, to your loved ones, because otherwise it's misinterpreted. Because again, neurotypicals don't understand these struggles. So while you don't understand verbal instructions, they do. So it's important to allow those around you to know how it is that you comprehend things. Otherwise, they're going to have the expectations that you're understanding when all you're hearing is little, little, little. So make sure you communicate your proper way of learning things to your loved ones, your teachers, fellow friends, etc. Number 5, forgetfulness. So this one, unfortunately, could be painful because it could even apply not just for important doctor's appointments, meetings, but it also applies to loved ones. So birthdays, anniversaries. So something, unfortunately, that I've gone through and I went through when I was undiagnosed, but every year my best friend, I always said happy birthday on the 12th to her, and her birthday was on the 2nd. So on the 12th, I was like, happy birthday. And it was on the 2nd. And so I would, make a party. I would get her all these gifts, but it was always late. And the same thing, I still do the same thing with my nephews. My mom threatened me this week. She kept texting me every day, buy the gift, because I always show up to the birthday and I'm like, oh, your gift is getting here in 2 days because of Amazon Prime. I buy the gift on my way to the party. Am I proud of this? No, I'm not, because I always buy my gifts on the way to the party, but it gets there in 2 days. So I'm like, oh, your gift will be here in 2 days. I don't like doing this, but I'm very forgetful. So something that helps me personally with this is accountability. So I set reminders, and now, for example, my mom, she knows this about me. So she texts me every day, buy the gift, and I procrastinate, of course. But this week, for example, I told her, I said, okay, look, you're telling me a month in advance. This is too far ahead. I said, please tell me a week before on Sunday, because I already know that Sunday is when I prepare for the week. So I said, tell me on Sunday, please, so I could get it done. So if you have a best friend, I know it's very difficult for us to ask for help, but it's okay to ask for help. It is 100% okay. And something too that I personally do is now I have a note on my PC. So I have my notes there, and all my important stuff like birthdays, everything, I put it there because I know I'm forgetful. I know I'm terrible at remembering things. So I'm not going to, I know a lot of people that are like, I'll remember. No, we won't. Let's be realistic. We are not going to remember. So let's not set ourselves up for failure. So write it down somewhere where you will see it every day. So again, ADHD is not curable, but it is highly treatable. So it's finding systems and methods that work based off of your own struggles. So Again, my name is Vanessa, and I'm a 31-year-old certified life coach from Harvard, and I hope you guys find this helpful. And I do have ebooks online available in my website, and I also have a free ADHD self-assessment that's not an official diagnosis, but a step towards better understanding yourself if you feel you may have ADHD. And I do also have a community where we have a body doubling channel, friendly reminders, hyperfixation rant, basically an incredible neurodivergent community. So I do offer that subscription. If you guys subscribe, you have access to my community. So make sure you guys check out the links in my bio, and I appreciate you guys so much, and I hope you guys find this helpful.